Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hi from me, Jared Epstein, and welcome to another episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. Rabbi Ari Shishler is back with important discussions about the world post-COVID-19, this time with his daughter Chayale Shishler on how we can rebuild communities after this pandemic.
This year has been an incredibly unusual year as community leaders. We have not had interaction with the community for a very long time. Slowly, things are starting to change and come back. It feels a little bit like an old car on a winter's morning. How do you get things to start? So do you have any ideas of what we should do to re-engage the community and get them back to where they were before all of this started?
So I think it's really important that while we're in lockdown as well, we're still keeping the connections and making sure that we're not losing touch with the community and they still feel that sense of community. And it's going to be important once things start going back to normal to make sure that we're making programs and bringing people back into what we were doing.
So when you can't interact with people to the same extent as usual because of the limitations that we're going through, I know that you've done some interesting things to connect with people in spite of that. I've also done some interesting things.
I think one thing that has been really touching to people is making a point to call them and message them and see how they're doing during this time. We've also been doing baking bashes for the teenagers to keep them involved.
How do you do a baking bash for teenagers?
Well, there's a good thing we have Zoom, and you tell them the ingredients, you make sure they get it all beforehand, and we just direct them over Zoom how to bake it. They bake it in their own homes.
So I think the interesting thing is probably a lot of those young people don't do much baking under normal circumstances. So maybe we've started something good for them. I guess one of the things that we could do is when everybody's back, we could have another in-person baking experience, and maybe they can even share those baked goods with others. For example, before, on a Friday before the Shabbat, before the Sabbath, when we have challah, the traditional braided breads that our community eats. So maybe we can get people to bake those at home, bake an extra one, give it to a neighbor, help people to reconnect after they've had this social distance. That could be something interesting. I know for me, one of the things that's really been useful is to interact through video messaging. So every single morning to send a little inspiring or relevant video message to people.
When life knocks us down, we don't just get up, but we come back with new force, new vitality, new power, and please God, new blessing.
Still, I think we'll need something once we can have people socially as we used to, and once we can have them in our places of worship as we used to. We'll still need some kind of a hook to break out of the habits that we've formed over the course of this year. The habits of doing everything in the convenience of your own home at your own time in your pajamas. So, any good ideas for that?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a huge adjustment, and I think there will be a lot of excitement in the beginning. But we're definitely going to have to put an effort to make that kind of excitement last and keep people involved. I think definitely having people over in our house.
The open home is a big thing, to be able to host people. It's interesting, there's a saying from the Talmud that when you offer people the opportunity to share food and to share a drink together, it brings those people together. And in this artificial period of being separated from each other, not by our choice, that's probably one of the most important things that we'll have to do, both in our own homes and in our places of worship, to allow people the opportunity, once it is safe to do so, to sit down and have a bite together and have a drink together. That will definitely bring people closer.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I think one thing that this whole period has taught us is that if you do have what you need, and others don't necessarily have what they need. And that's not only food or finance. Sometimes it's personal touch. Some people are completely alone And this has been a period where they could not interact with other people. So it's that important for us just to be conscious of those people. We might go back to normal life before other people can. We have to be quite aware of those people who are at risk because of their age, because of other comorbidities that they have. So I think we've got to think about how to stay in touch and maybe make deliveries to those people's homes of something that's personal and nice and warm. To me, the big take home out of all of this will be we should appreciate the community that we have. We should appreciate the way that we can touch people, and hopefully we continue to do so when life is back to normal. I don't know, do you think it will ever be back to normal?
I don't know.
The Moroccan Jewish community was once one of the largest in the diaspora at around 250,000 people. It has now dwindled to around 5,000, but the country's Jewish heritage remains important. Interestingly, an organization that is at the forefront of keeping it alive is one that was started by Moroccan Muslim students and is aptly named Association Mimouna, after a local Jewish custom. Marwa Shakawi tells us more.
The vision of Association Mimouna is to actually preserve the Moroccan Jewish culture as a very an important component of our Moroccan culture, and to also let the young generation know about this component. The older generation actually knows about it. They have lived together with their Jewish neighbors in the alleys, in the neighborhood. But for the younger generation, all they know is what the mainstream international media says, which is Zionism, which is not entirely true, because we still have, for example, here in Morocco, and Jewish communities in different cities, and they're basically Moroccans. It is just one name, it is one nationality. There is no difference. The same culture, the same language, the same music, the same food, and understanding that this is beyond a political issue. It has a cultural importance here for us as an association. So it is very important to preserve that. Mimouna Association has started as a club in the University of Al Akhawain by a group of Muslim Moroccan students. These Moroccan students saw the need for a club that represents an important component of the Moroccan culture and heritage as a whole, and they decided to represent and to protect and to also preserve the Moroccan Jewish heritage and to make it known for the students of the campus. The name, as you know, comes from the famous Mimouna celebration, which comes right after Passover. It is very celebrated in North Africa, and it is a very interesting celebration, and one of the few who brings together Jewish neighbors with their Muslim neighbors together to celebrate together after the end of Passover. The Muslim neighbors used to bring bread and so on for their Jewish neighbors, and they would celebrate together this celebration. So it is very significant, and they saw the need to use this term of Mimouna in order to celebrate and to preserve the culture. The club at first, when it started, they had what it says the Moroccan Jewish Days inside the campus, and they would put flyers on the campus written in Hebrew, and they also brought Jewish singers, rabbis, in order to talk to the students and to celebrate together the Moroccan Jewish Day. To be honest, this was not an easy task, because for the young generation, for the students, they were a little bit ignorant about the fact that we have a community that is Jewish in Morocco. All they knew about Judaism is to be Zionist or the conflict that is happening. So they actually started painting swastikas on the dorm where most of our members lived. So our members, they only did one thing. They told to these students, just go and ask your grandparents about Jews. And most of the time, these students would come back and be like, oh, we did ask our grandparents and they only said like great things about them. We have members whom actually their grandmothers were breastfed by Jewish women. It was a very close community. They worked together, they lived together. There was no issue. But now there is no link between the older generation. So we're trying to make that happen again, to preserve the culture, to highlight an important component of our culture. The lessons that people would actually learn from our events are different. We have events about the Holocaust, we have events about the Jewish history, we have events about interreligious, it differs. But for example, I didn't know that the Moroccan Jews living in the north have a different language and different Hebrew than the ones living in the center or so of Morocco. I would have never known that. Also, the history of how the Jews, for example, of north of Morocco came to Morocco, which was at the same time with Andalusia, with the Muslims who escaped the Catholic Queen. And this actually brings us together, like both of them have escaped. So it was very important to learn about that. It was eye-opening because I was like, oh, actually it is the same thing, but we don't talk about it in schools. And this is what we miss. So we try, like the things that we miss in school, you learn them through our events, through our conferences. So it is very, very interesting to see that. And it differs, as I told you, it is different from one event to another, but I just giving you like a small example of what I've personally learned. So as an association, just to be clear, all of us are voluntary workers. We love what we do. This is something that we are very passionate about. So we have different programs that we offer throughout the year. I would like to highlight that in 2011, Association Mimouna has held the ever first Holocaust conference in the Arab world with Kivonim. And we brought Holocaust survivors to talk to Moroccan students, Muslim youngsters, about their experiences and to make these denials of the Holocaust disappear a little bit from the Arab world. What we want the broad community or audience to learn from us is that it is not about being this or that. It is about being accepting. It is about caring. It is about protecting your own culture, your own values. It is about preserving your history, because without history there is nothing. And for the Jewish community in Morocco, they have lived here for more than 3,000 years. So it is not just something that you can erase easily. So this is why it is very important to open up, to accept the other. It is not the other, but it is, to accept your neighbor. And Islam, it is very important to believe in all of the Abrahamic religion in order to be Muslim. So this is just a continuation of the Islamic teachings that we have learned when we were young. It is about being Moroccan. Morocco is about generosity. It is about dancing, music, food. It is about everything. And our Jewish component is very important. And this is why we do this. And we want the people to actually be open, to just listen to the other. Once you listen to the other, you'll know that you have so many things in common. You have so many things that will bring you together. And it is very important. The message that we want to send to anyone, any person who has an initiative like ours, anyone who would like to partner with us, is to just do it. When the founders of our association started, they had no funding, they had nothing. They just had an idea to preserve the Moroccan Jewish culture. They funded their own events by their own money. Some of their parents have helped them out, but they did continue, and since 2007 now we are in 2020. So it is incredible that you just push forward. You have one idea, then the other, then it continues. Just trust yourself, start what you're doing, be the change that you need to be in your community, and that will actually, at first it will be hard, but then eventually it will work out. And now with social media, I think everything can be passable. It's you just need to push yourself to start what you want, to have an initiative that will actually help your community, that will be significant to your community, and that would be incredible. Just go for it.
Johannesburg-based Josh Elter specializes in singing at Jewish weddings and other celebrations or simchas. Josh's family has always had music and their Judaism intertwined. He talks to us about what being part of a simcha band is all about, and after that, Rabbi Sam Thurgood tells the kids what a kippah is in Ask the Elders.
From an early age, Judaism has always been involved in my life. I've got parents that pushed a lot of openness in our family, so I've been very involved in Judaism in a lot of aspects. I've been involved in education in Judaism, in formal education, and obviously my father being a chazan, a cantor, for many, many years. Music was passed down, thankfully. I've got a grandfather, great-grandfather, all involved in music. So from an early age, I was sitting at the bima, the area where the actual cantor sings, listening to music, being very involved at an early age. I have got a wide range of people that I take influence from Jewish to secular. I'm a massive Yonatan Razal fan. All of those type of Jewish, very relaxed type of vocalists I listen to. But to be honest, my love for liturgical music hasn't always been there. My father's been very patient with me, so I think that my appreciation for that type of music and my appreciation for that type of experience has come from my father. He has pushed my boundaries in everything that I do in regards to music. I owe pretty much everything of my music career to my father. So what I naturally do the majority of the time within my actual music career is weddings. I do the reception. I play with a band. Dependent on how many people you want in that band, obviously I'll bespoke it for you. And I do chuppahs. I do under the canopy when you are getting married, that actual process of getting the ring and saying all those cool little phrases and the 7 blessings, the 7 Sheva brachas that you say under the actual wedding. I'm involved in that also quite a lot. During a simcha band, we play at least 1 set, hopefully 2 sets of a traditional dance that's found in horrors. So it's basically a very high tempo, very energetic type of music that is played for around 22 minutes per set, which is very intense. I'm still schwitzing, as they say in Yiddish. I'm sweating while that happens because I'm bouncing up and down, but seeing the ecstasy in their eyes, knowing that they have just gotten married, and the men are with the men a lot of the time, and the women are with the women, especially in horror dancing. And it is a time for the men to be with their mate and their women to be with their mate and completely enjoy that happiness. And that is by far the best part of being part of a horror simcha band. In truth, weddings isn't really about me. I love being in front of the groom and the bride, the chatan and the kala, and seeing it's a time where it's very private, where 99% of people don't see what they are experiencing under the chuppah, under the area where they get married. But I'm privileged to see that. And I am a hopeless romantic. So being involved in that and being able to witness that I think that is the main reason why I do weddings. Brides and grooms, khatans and kalas, are completely different. Every single experience that I am involved in is completely unique, because not of me and not because of the band, because the guests are different. So they might be doing something completely different. They will be doing something completely different to the wedding prior that I was involved in the day before. So uniqueness is not dependent on the music that's presented. For me, uniqueness is completely dependent on the people that you're performing for. And that is why in an experience where you can give two of the same perfect songs at the same time, the result will be different, because to who you're giving it to is different. And that's one of the most important things with Simcha bands, is that it's not about the band, it's about the people that you're performing for.
It's something that the boys wear on their head. It's this, because they're special. A kippah is a thing, so it's like a thing to welcome Hashem in your brain. The girls can't wear them because they look beautiful already in a dress.
A kippah, also known as a yarmulke or sometimes a skull cap, is the covering that Jewish men wear on their heads in deference out of respect to Hashem. They come in many different shapes and sizes. I personally actually have a fairly large kippah collection, some made out of leather, others knitted with all different colors in them, and even African beaded one, velvet ones. I personally try to always blend it with the colors of what I'm wearing. This one is an Australian Aboriginal design. But the idea of a kippah is to show a reverence for God, a sense that we cover our heads out of respect for the one who is above us and for the one who is commanding us. Of course, you don't need to wear a kippah or skull cap as such. Any respectful head covering can do, which is why hats tend to also be very popular.
That brings us to the end of this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a Facebook message at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Jared Epstein, and the Simcha team, remember, as said by Mother Teresa, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples.